Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Ana Juarez, who is the president and Canadian operations for CTA Environmental Consultants, who are an established environmental consultancy group developing best-in-class professionals, delivering a suite of long-term environmental solutions tailored to mining's clients' requirements. Ana is also the founder and executive director of Women in Mining Central America, and is also an author, recently writing and releasing a book, Ana's Adventures in the Mine, which I did buy a copy end of last year. She was also honoured to be included among the top 100 most inspirational women in mining globally. And so there's a few accolades there, and we're going to talk a little bit more about her work, about her book, and also the importance of education within our industry. So no further ado, let's welcome Ana to the podcast. How are you doing, Ana?
Thank you, Rob. I'm super happy to be joining you at this podcast. I've been seeing this podcast for quite a while, I must say, so I'm really honored to be here finally.
Great. So you're an active listener. So as you know, obviously, how we start these podcasts, it's always good to find out a little bit more about the guest, about their background. Obviously, I'm in recruitment, so obviously this is a people business, and so I just wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your career, from when you graduated to sort of present day.
Sure. So I was born in Guatemala. But I went to study university in Germany. I studied environmental sciences in Germany. And then I did a master's degree in the UK of environmental water management. And after I finished my studies, I returned back to Guatemala to work. I work in a family business. And for being able to work at the family business, one of the ideas was that I had to have prior experience somewhere else to be an employee. So I worked in the UK, I worked in Germany, like 2.5 years or 3 years before I joined my family's business. My family, because we're from Guatemala, that's where our business started, but it has grown quite a lot. We have now offices in Mexico, we work all Central America, we work as well in all South America, we have an office in Chile, and I'm based here in our Canadian offices now. Since 6 years ago, I moved here. But we have been working now in South Africa, and like in Africa and in Asia, a bit in the Middle East and in Europe. And of course, our main ground is the Americas. So that is where we have been working and growing, and I've been enjoying the last years here in Canada.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously you studied in Germany. Was there a reason why you studied in Germany?
Yeah. So my dad, he got a scholarship in Guatemala from the German government to do his PhD in Germany. So when I was 2 years old, we moved with my family to Germany to do his PhD. We stayed there for around 6 or 7 years because he did his PhD and then a postdoc as well. So my German is really, in fact, my first language because I grew up in Germany. So sometimes I feel more German than I feel Guatemalan just because most of my friends are German. Still here, I do feel like I do see Latinos and we click, but then I also see Germans and I click quite quick as well. Just because, my brother is married with a German, his kids are German, and my sister too. So I think I did move quite a lot to that side of the world as well, by heart as well.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. Studying in Germany again, I suppose it's a country that's probably less known for mining. Although I know there is a little bit of mining because I have done a podcast. Although I can't remember exactly when, but I know it was quite a few years ago. There is a mine in Germany, And there's probably a lot like, I suppose, Europe, where there is the mining industry throughout Europe is slowly sort of, I suppose, developing more so, and you're hearing a little bit more about mining in Europe.
Yeah, I have not heard much of mining. When we went there was because of the environmental side. I think Germany is known for, when it's done in Germany is, it's well done. And I think they're really strong on the environmental side as well. So my dad and me both studied environmental studies. So I think that brought us to that side of the world. It has been interesting, though, to see a lot of geologists that are from Germany being all over. So I've had people that I've met in Honduras that were Germans that are, geologists. They have also a lot of mineralogists that study in Germany. So I've seen, different types of scientists in parts of the industry. Like you say, we don't hear maybe much of the mining industry, but I know, and I saw recently a post from someone that I follow that is based in Germany, that they had a mining convention or some sort in Germany. I think in Frankfurt or something somewhere there. So definitely interesting to see that there's some movement of the mining industry also as well in Germany.
So I just wondered, before we go into a few more questions, I just wondered if you can just tell us a little bit about CTA Environmental Consultants and the type of work that you do.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, we are an environmental consulting company, specialized really in providing comprehensive solutions for the mining and the energy sector as well. My parents started the company 24 years ago. So we have been for 24 years already in business. And we have really a big group of a team with different specialities, not just environmental, but also biologists, geologists, the social side. So a bit of everything that has to be done to be able to do environmental impact assessments, environmental monitoring, doing auditings. We have been doing a lot of auditings recently as well for compliance, but also for example, international environmental standards like mining standards as well, like the cyanide code. IRMA, I think has grown quite a lot. We have been part of the IRMA auditing team, TSM. All this standard have grown on the environmental side, specifically for mining industry. We have been part of that growth, and we have been supporting our clients as well with that. So we have been working with the industry since we started off in Guatemala. And I think our first mining client was the first or second year after we started the company. So we have been working with the industry for more than 22 years or 23 years.
Just wondering if you just tell us a little bit about the Mineralogical Club and how the idea for the book, Ana's Ventures in the Mine, sort of came about.
Yeah, so first maybe I wanted to, so when I did the Kids Mineralogist Club, it came really from the work that I was doing at Women in Mining Central America. We're turning 3 years this year of Women in Mining Central America. We're still in the baby phase. We have been still growing quite a lot, but still in the baby phase. But one of the first initiatives that I started with Women in Mining Central America was the Kids Mineralogist Club. And I think because we have 3 pillars, we have one pillar of education, one pillar of advocacy, and a pillar of women in mining. And it is because of that, because we have had a lot of anti-mining movements in Central America and the Caribbean regions, and we cannot be a women in mining organization if we don't have mining. So one of the things we need to do is really change the perception people have had about the industry. And the best way to start, I thought, initially, but also because I think I have a boy, and I thought, I saw him here interacting and learning so much about mining that I thought it would be a great place to start. So we started with kids. Kids is really interesting because they're not biased. They like, I don't know what kid doesn't go around picking up little stones. So they all collect stones in one way or another, or are super interested immediately about it when you talk about it to them. And then they're really great promoters. If you talk with one kid, how they can, like share that information that you shared with them with so many others. We did once and asked the kids to send us a picture of how they could share no, that we wanted them to share to, family or other friends about what they were learning in the mineralogist club. And I remember them sending pictures of their entire family sitting in their living room and them teaching them about what they had learned. So, you touch one kid and you touch an entire family. You can touch really an entire community with that. So I really feel that there is a multiplying factor in really educating a kid. Plus, they're the future too. So you're educating and transforming their life since the beginning. And really opening their mind to think, okay, mining is an option, or, I want to go into STEM sciences because I really like mineralogy, or I like, biology or whatever. Because we touch so many subjects, not just really mining. But yeah, that's how it's really started. And that is how the idea of the book came along as well. Because when we work with our kids in Spanish most of the time. It has grown, the club has grown a lot. It was thought for really Central America and the Caribbean, but we saw that there was really a much bigger need for what we were doing. So we started working in, like last year, we were in Ecuador, we were in Chile, we were, so in so many other countries. So we saw that we needed to grow this a lot. But when we started in Spanish. And one of the things that we saw is that there was really not much information for the kids to keep learning by themselves about minerals and mining. So we did, on an online place that they could go and find, that's called Biblioteca Virtual, like a virtual library that they could go to and find information. We were like taking from wherever we were finding information that they could keep reading and keep understanding about the industry. But one of the things I thought was like, would be really cool if we would have a book as well. And then that's how the idea of Ana's Adventures came really to life. And I put all the pillars that we work in women in mining into that book. We put education, because it's an education book as well, but it's really an adventure book. It's an adventure of Ana with her friends. So it's like a Harry Potter book kind of, but it's about mining. So it has an education piece there. And it's an advocacy book because it's definitely as well for, to kids seeing that there is mining in the industry. So we talk about the subject. And then the gender part, the women in mining pieces, because all the women that are part of the book, and even men, my son is in that book as well, are real women, so we wanted female role models for the girls as well. And to see that, we can grow and be part of the industry. So we put all those pieces in that book, and it's part of what made Ana's Adventure, I think, have also a lot of, positive reviews.
I was going to ask, what kind of reviews have you got? I know my children have started the book, but they haven't finished. Now's the time for me to make sure they're going to finish the book very soon. So I'll be able to give you some a review. But what reviews have you had from people and maybe people's children that have read the book?
So it's been interesting because I think I've had a lot of different reviews from different people. I had reviews from mothers, for example, that have shared with their kids, and the mothers say, and I have had this from all over the world, mothers that say, like, now I can share with my kids, and they can start of understanding what really mining is about and what I do when I leave. So I think that was really awesome to see. I had other comments, for example, and I had quite a lot of book purchases as well from the mining companies themselves, and seeing as a tool to engage and communicate with the communities and specifically with schools. So I thought that was also really nice to see. And it has been, the book is right now in Spanish, English, Portuguese, and Arabic, and so hopefully soon also in French. So we have had people really from all over purchasing it, and not just in bulk purchasing it because they wanted to give it out for their sons of their employees that would be the other ones that bought quite a lot. So I think it was definitely a lot of great reviews to see it as a tool for educating, but also inspiring, because it does have the book is called Ana's Adventure at the Mine. The first book is called The Secret of La Esperanza, and La Esperanza in Spanish means hope. So it was also kind of an empowerment book for girls, right? Like, you can do whatever you dream you can do. So I think we had a lot of, and people really got that. So I really love that as well, that people like really understood what was behind that title. So I think I've got quite a lot of great reviews from different places around the world, seeing the potential it has, and even people that are not in the industry, just people that are from. I think there's so many other industries that are similar to mining that have problems with talent retention or attracting new talent, or getting more women into in their industries. So I had a bulk purchase as well from a company in Honduras that wanted to. They're from the food industry, and they thought, we need more engineers, and this is something great. So we're struggling with this too. So this would be great for us to communicate with younger audience as well. So I really loved how people really felt that was for them in different parts of the world and for different industries even, right?
Yeah, and certainly as a recruiter, I know we need other people from other industries to come and join our industry, because there is obviously a big skill shortage. With the book, it has an educational focus, and I like to think this podcast is also has an educational focus to the guests that I interview. What is the importance of mining education from your perspective, and how can it have a positive impact on our industry?
I think it is super important that we educate the people. And I think one of the important things is that we always, and I think it's been one of the mistakes we have done in the industry as well, that we have not been proactive in education and advocating for the sector, but just reactive. Everything we have done has been reactive. When we have a crisis, that's when we do and implement or do something, instead of really thinking it through and prepare everything beforehand. I think a lot would have changed. For example, I don't know what you've been following, what has been happening in Panama with First Quantum. If there would have been a bit more proactive measures, and educating on a more not just one group of stakeholders, but many other groups. I think we just think sometimes when we're working with the communities of maybe the leaders or certain groups, but I think we have to be tons wider than that, and more in a project that was so big. So I think the part of education is really a key, and the other key is really deciding who the stakeholders are, and really not leaving a lot of the stakeholders out. One of the big parts that we have seen in women in mining that we need to work on, we have not started yet, but are mapped out, is, for example, the government. Our governments are not aware of the industry, because we are not countries that have had a lot of history in mining. So I think we need to educate them and support them and bring them to into our mines or to our projects, and be more conscious of what we are transmitting all the time to them, and to other stakeholders as well. So I think there's quite a lot that needs to be done. But I think it's important really for addressing misconceptions. I think one of the other big parts, because the anti-mining movements have been doing a great job of educating on false information, and really on misconceptions. So I think we really need to work that back and really put right information to the people. And really that also promotes transparency and accountability as well to the industries, right? So I think one of the actions that could be done could be education and outreach, like the one we have been doing with the Kids Club. Open days can be another one. I've seen several mines implementing that, inviting universities, any kind of student that wants to come and see, they were inviting them in. Engineers, like, even if sometimes they feel it's not really mining careers, they were still coming in, and I think that has been great to see. But also, for example, educational programs at schools, and that's where maybe the Kids Mineralogists Club plays an important role. Public campaigns. I've seen great work here, for example, by the Mining Association of Canada in Ottawa. I saw, and they have been sending pictures around as well of all the work they did in Ottawa for in public informing about the importance of the industry. So where are our mines and metals in our daily lives? So I think they have done, for example, that's a great example of public campaigns that we could use around the world. And then I think the other important part is, and I think I've seen this a bit more recently, but use of social media and modern technologies. I think last time I was in a conference in Minds and Money in the UK, and one of the students stood up and said, "Yeah, I don't like, we are in TikTok, and I don't see no mining industry doing nothing in TikTok." And I think that's right. I think we don't think about that part. We think very professional, like, just LinkedIn. But I think if we want to reach a wider audience, we have to think about X, we have to think about TikTok, we have to think about, other ways of promoting and visibilizing the industry. Like my son, he looks shorts in YouTube because he's not allowed to have TikTok, but so you have to really find ways to promote and get to the information to the right people, also in a very visual way, and technical, but at the same time, in fact based, but at the same time easy for people that are not from the industry to understand, because I think that's the other important part. And then, of course, for example, partnerships and collaborations. I think that is another important piece. There's so many organizations like Women in Mining around the world that companies can get together and cooperate or partner with. But then if you think as well of universities or schools, I mean, university is the best, maybe the first best ally, immediate ally, because thinking of people, that's a great place to recruit. So if people are well informed about the industry and well educated about the industry, there's more chance that they might even enter the industry and think of joining, right? But at the same time as well, you can, for example, in our countries, we don't have a lot of careers of mining. So I think it might be a great chance as well to start and promote maybe that there is a start of that, of, I don't know, mining engineering that we don't have, for example, right? So I think there's a lot that you can do as well, also with collaborations with NGOs. Sometimes these NGOs in our side of the world, and maybe in Central America and the Caribbean, they're sometimes a bit extreme, almost on the on the link wall, like, that they shouldn't do kind of things, certain things. But I think there's some others that might be definitely worth to approach and have a conversation with. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done in educating a lot of different groups.
Yeah, and obviously going back to social media, especially the younger generation, if we're looking to get younger generation into our industry, some of those platforms like TikTok, and I'm sure that we did try TikTok to try and advertise this podcast, and I'm not sure whether we got too much interaction. I know we're on Instagram. Facebook, again, with us, we don't get too much interaction, to tell the truth. So we've actually just recently dropped Facebook, and we've been on there for at least a few years. It seems to a lot of, especially with the mining industry, it seems to a lot mainly through LinkedIn. So maybe we do need to look at the mining industry and social media slightly different on some of these other platforms. But I know we have tried, but yeah, we didn't seem to get too much traction, and it didn't necessarily seem whether we should carry on if it doesn't seem to be working.
I think it depends a bit on the type of information put out. I think LinkedIn is great if you want to bring information of the people that you recruit to the attention of the mining companies. I think that is awesome. But then if you're trying to get new talent that is not in the industry, and then if you're thinking really about younger generations as well, I think the way that because if I see my son, it's very visual, right? They're very visual kids. And I think that is the type of information that we have to put in, that there's visual and that's short, but it's very informative at the same time. So I think that how you approach different media and the different groups that you want to target, I think has to be different as well. I don't think every advertisement will work, or every, let's say, video or whatever we're trying to do is going to work in all the platforms, right? So I think that is kind of, I mean, it requires a lot of work, right? That is part of the science of trying to outreach and educate. But I think that makes it interesting. And that's why one of the things of the books made it interesting too, because it's a book. A lot of kids nowadays, are maybe want to see a video or a movie instead. But a lot of parents still want to buy a kids a book. So I think it made it really interesting. We did put into the book, and we're still working on that, an application. So it's going to be um that kind of, they have to grab their phone and scan the code, and it opens like a 3D kind of thing. So we're working on that right now, because I know that the kids want to interact as well. So we're working on that, so the kids will be able to learn through an app, and more an interactive way with virtual reality. I think that's the word, virtual reality. So we're trying to put that in as well. So you have to try to find new ways to educate and make it interesting for kids who want to engage.
Yeah, and obviously carrying on from the younger generation and education. I was only having discussions today, funny enough, and it seems obviously our schooling system, especially in the UK, probably a lot of schooling systems around the world, they don't teach them anything about mining. They don't teach them anything about geology. Is there a reason for that, I wonder? And if there isn't, why can't they introduce even a small section into the curriculum when they're like at secondary school, where at least they can have some exposure to understand what mining is? Because obviously mining is needed for us to grow, for us to grow, for us to develop. All the computers, phones, all the technology requires mining. Yet none of the young children, or not even just young children, but even adults, don't understand the importance of mining. And I just wondered if you've come across, obviously in writing the book, where maybe some schools do teach a little bit about mining or geology, and if not, how else? Obviously, you've got a book that can be given to a child, but if we want the industry of mining to be sort of more known across the world, then surely it needs to be introduced into the schooling system. And I just wonder why it hasn't yet.
No, for sure. I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. Central America and the Caribbean. I was raised very, very young in Germany, but then I grew up in Guatemala, and my school years were really in Guatemala. And I didn't receive any, I didn't hear about mining till I was working. When we had to do, our first project for a mining company. That's when I heard about mining. But we're not really before, and I never thought about, where does this come from, or where does that come from? Never. So I definitely understand that. When I came to Canada, though, I felt it super interesting, and I know that the mining associations here in Canada did a lot of work to introduce a curriculum, a mining curriculum, not a mining, like science-based curriculum, so the kids would understand more about geological sciences and what they have in Canada, and what makes Canada wealthy as well from their natural resources. And one of them is mining. So my son, when he was here in third and fourth grade, I think it was, they do have a big piece that they teach them about what do we mine in Canada? Where is, I don't know, phosphate, or I don't know what they have, like the different things that they have in about mining here in Canada. So was super interesting to see that. But I understand that it was really, was a real effort from the mining industry and from mining associations to put that part of the curriculum. So I think it's definitely great to have that. And I think it's a great example of things that we need to promote in our countries as well. I know that it will, because I think I didn't even study properly soil sciences either. And I think that's such an important subject. It's like, what is Earth made of? What is under our feet? We don't know none of that. So I think there's, and that is really sciences. It's 100% science. And I think that is part of the idea of of the Mineralogist Club as well, bringing more sciences and STEM activities to the schools. So we do have a program specifically for schools as well that we work with. And that is part of the programs that we support as well, the mining industry to bring to the community surrounding them, and really trying to promote that. But the next step, and that would be the amazing step, would be really to start putting it into the curriculum as well, like Canada managed to do. And I think Canada is a great example for that.
I mean, I do actually remember learning the periodic table when I was 12 or 13, but I don't know what happened after that. So I don't know, but I do remember learning that, and I could remember most of it. But apart from that, I wouldn't have known it. These minerals come from, or metals come from the earth. We weren't told that. I'm sure we weren't.
No, and I think that is one of the like you see, there's really a big hole gap that we have in so many people about the industry, and I think that's why it's such an important work that we need to do as an industry to educate the industry. Because I think people, for example, if you think about agriculture, people really think, oh, this comes from agriculture. They really don't think about, like, they have their food and they know it comes from the fields or it comes from there. But if they have a phone, they don't really think about, oh yeah, this comes from mines, like because of the mine site, or a computer. So I think there really needs we need to do a better job in communicating the importance of the industry to the society, really.
Yeah. And I suppose it goes on to the next question. I mean, what actions do you think are necessary to improve public understanding and obviously communication about the mining sector to the general public?
Like I mentioned before, I think needs to definitely be, and we just talked about it a lot, about education to schools. That is definitely an important part. Then really mining, opening up to open days, like I mentioned before as well. Trying to use other, back to our technologies, right, and social medias to really communicate about the industry, and really addressing the misconceptions that we have, but also using really facts and science-based information for communicating it. I mean, there's so many things that you can do, and one of the idea really with Women in Mining Central America, and when I started it, is being able to support the industry with these processes, being a partner for them to be able to communicate. I think it's interesting sometimes that when last time we were doing our work, and I saw that when you look for a project or something happening, you find two informations. A lot of information from anti-mining NGOs, and then the information from the mining company. That's the two informations you find. A lot of bad and negative information, and one or two pieces of what the mining company put out there. So I think we need to have a stronger voice and support the industry and balancing that. And that it was really the idea when we started working with the advocacy side as well, and Women in Mining, having, that piece that adds to the weight of being a voice for the industry, really.
Obviously, you're the founder and executive director of Women in Mining Central America. I just wondered if you can just tell us a little bit about that and what you've done so far since founding the organization.
Yeah, so we started, I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I founded Women in Mining Central America almost 3 years ago now. So we're turning 3 right now in March. And these 3 years have been definitely interesting. I mentioned we work in the 3 pillars: education, advocacy, and the gender piece. In fact, right now in PDAC and PDIC here in Canada, we're going to have an event that works with 2 of the pillars. One is going to be really an advocacy event, just talking about the sector, about our region, and the potential we have. We have really a great group of speakers that are coming up for the event, and just discussing how we can grow and visibilize our region a bit more as well. So will be an amazing event. At the same time, there we will be having an award ceremony for our women of gold. We call them, in Spanish, it's called Mujeres de Oro. And it has been a lot of work as well to visualize female talent that we have in our region, because our region is small and doesn't have a long history in mining. And maybe if you think about Latin America, you think about maybe Mexico, and then you go to superpowers like Brazil, Peru, Chile, in mining. Sometimes we're not visualized of talents that we have, and I think that is part of the work that we're doing in women in mining as well, visualizing the amazing talent that we have. So we are giving awards to 9 women of our region, and they're going to join the group of 13 women that we already have of women of gold. And it's really women that have managed to grow a lot during their career and the time that they have worked in the industry. We have, for example, women that started at the beginning, as lawyers, or really, at the beginning, you're an intern or whatever, and then they have become the president of huge mining companies in our region. So we have had the pleasure and honor to get to know them, like knowing their talent, get their stories out, and that has been really nice to do. Being able to get inspired us too, but as well be able to inspire through their stories to other women that are, maybe thinking of joining the industry, already in the industry, and maybe want to grow, to have them as models, and say role models, and say, oh, I can get there as well. So it's a great opportunity to give them an award during this event. I'm really happy to have them coming over to Canada, and we will have that award ceremony during that event as well. So we have been quite active, I must say, doing different things, educating. The other group that we have been educating as well we have been working with museums, because I thought the other interesting part is not just how we as an industry can promote it, but how can we collaborate and partner with other organizations and having them as a voice for the industry as well. So we started working with museums of our region to be able to train their facilitators of the museums. It's mainly kids museums. And the idea is that they start building an area that has minerals or information about mining, and that they can then serve as voice as well for educating about the importance of the industry. So that is a part of the work we have been doing. We have quite a lot of initiatives. We started also a podcast. I've not been as regular as you, because it requires quite a lot of effort and time, I must say. But we started that as well. It's called Insight. And we have been interviewing. It's been a bit more political, maybe, trying to understand how mining in our region works, what has been happening, but I've not been as dedicated as you with your weekly podcast. But yeah, we started developing several different initiatives to focus on the 3 different pillars that we see as an importance for really the industry. But at the same time, it has been evolving through time to adapt to whatever we see that is needed. And one of the things, for example, we got recently out because of what happened in Panama. We developed a page where people can upload their curricula, so it can be sent to headhunters or companies like yours if they're looking for talent. And we have quite a lot of talent in our region as well, and that is available for the industry as well. So we want to always try to partner and support and find ways that we can add value.
Certainly. And concluding, obviously we've got a variety of listeners that listen to this podcast, generally from obviously within our mining industry, whether it's people from the mining companies, whether it's service providers, and maybe investors. What would you say to them that, I suppose, help educate our mining industry? what is there any advice that you give them? And it doesn't mean educating people within our industry, but also educating people outside our industry. Is there any initiatives that you feel that people should be doing more of to promote the brand of mining within our industry?
I mean, definitely join our club, the Kids Mineralogist Club. Join it. It's for free. And we are working really along the world right now with the Kids Club. So that is definitely an initiative that I want to put out there. If you want to join or want to host us, we can definitely work on that. But I think there's such an importance of educating, and it really starts at home. I think it's the first people that we have close to us, and sometimes even our own family don't understand why we do in our work. Starting with our kids, or our partner that sometimes might not work in the industry as well. So I think if each of us, and I put a post about this not that long ago, if each of us really would take the time to educate, if we are a mining company, for example, if we would take the time to educate all our, for example, all the service providers that we have, then the impact would be so huge, because if those service providers are well educated as well, they can be such a great advocate and ambassadors of what the mining company is doing. And it can be all type of service providers, from the cleaning company that provides it, to the company that provides the fuel, to the company. There's so many companies, consulting companies like ours, environmental consultants, but also like if we all understand the work that we are doing, and that the company we're providing the services for are doing, we can be great advocates for the industry. So I think we really have to think tons bigger than what we have been actually doing, and not just thinking about the communities, but all the chain that we can use to help us promote. We don't have to do this work by ourselves. There's so many people that can promote and support to be a voice for the industry. So I think we have to create that and engage with the people to be able to do that and educate.
Yeah. And I think some of the bigger companies should encourage this, especially with the amount of people that they have working for them. And not just big companies, it should be everyone promoting, telling people what they actually do. But having the big companies promote and try and incentivize some of their staff to promote to the younger generation, because I think the only way that we can improve the branding and image of mining is through showing people, especially outside of the mining industry, what we do. And if we want people to come into the industry, again, it's everyone taking a little bit of responsibility and teaching their children, which generally a lot of people within our mining industry does come through the families. If their parents worked in the mining industry, then they tend to come through the industry. But that's just make it a little bit more wider. Maybe speak to cousins and just extended families. And then that will obviously it takes a long time to do this, but we need to all start, I suppose, taking a little bit more responsibility, but just showcasing everyone what our industry is about. And it's essential. It's not as though it's an industry it's an industry that's actually needed for us to evolve. So it is crucial and it is important. And I think we just need to, each individual and everyone listening to this just needs to maybe speak to, even if it's once a month, speak to someone outside of mining that's never heard of mining. Just tell them what you do and the importance of it. And it's just, I suppose it's like a networking effect, which will eventually help improve our image, the industry's image.
Yeah, I hope so. So. Definitely an action to take.
Yeah, certainly. Anna, really appreciate your time. Thank you for obviously sharing your story and your career, and obviously telling us a little bit about your book, and obviously Women in Mining in Central America. How can our audience, if they want to reach out to you, how can they go about doing that? How can they buy a copy of your book, which I encourage everyone that has children, well, not even necessarily has children, but has children, to go out and purchase purchase the book and obviously get your children to read it. Again, that's spreading the word of our industry. And also, how can they join Women in Mining also?
Thank you. So I'm available I'm in all the networks online. But if you find me on LinkedIn, I'm under Ana Juarez. Women in Mining has a page as well that is called Women in Mining, is WIM, WIM, centralamerica.com. So you can follow us as well in our webpage. And like, we're always looking for volunteers as well and people supporting and what we're doing in Women in Mining Central America from around the world. So if you want to join us, there's a part there where you can also ask to join. And then the book is available on Amazon worldwide in the United States. And I understand that in the UK, there's also other parts that we have been putting it out there. So available in some libraries like Barnes and Nobles. But on Amazon, you will find it under Anna's Adventures at the Mine. And everything that is, all the books that are purchased is given back to the Kids Mineralogist Club to keep educating kids about the importance of mining. And you can give it out as well and buy it for bringing it to school or bring it to the school library, for example. We have several people already have done that as well. So that is also a great example of how you can do some work as well as an outreach. And yeah, I really thank you, Rob, for the opportunity for being on this amazing podcast. And thank you so much.
No, and like I said, I appreciate your time, and it's good that you've shown some initiative and written this book, and I think it's crucial, and it's one step upon many steps to help educate our younger generation. So no, I really appreciate you in writing that book. All the links to the book, to Women in Mining, and your contact details will be in the show notes accompanying this podcast. So anyone can have easy access to buy the book, which I encourage you all to do, everyone that's listening. And obviously anyone in maybe Central America that wants to join Women in Mining, they can do so as well. So good to have you on the podcast. Hopefully you can come on later next year, or even, later this year or next year, and then give us an update on any advancements on what you've been talking about, especially educating our industry.
Thank you so much, Rob.
No worries. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, please keep sharing these episodes far and wide. Share them with people in our industry, but also people outside of the industry. We do need to keep positive promoting of our industry. And obviously, Anna has written a book, which I do encourage you to buy and give to your children, whether it's for a birthday or just a special gift, if they're good, just to obviously help promote our industry. So until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.